less well known to the public, but a legend within the community and the nonprofit world, who built Ashoka, an organization that has helped to seed people who are called social entrepreneurs, not only in this country but all over the world, and a man with a huge passion for social change. Tell us about your own journey as a leader and what you're trying to do, how you're trying to encourage leadership among the young with these, well, people of all ages really, through Ashoka.
Well, if you look at this panel here, you'll notice something that's very different from the panel you would have seen 10 years ago. Half of us are social entrepreneurs. If you'd looked at this panel 10 years ago, it would have been only business and government and maybe one or two others, a bishop perhaps. What you're seeing here is a reflection of a very, very profound historical transformation. And our passion for what we do is that we see it, and we're privileged to be able to serve that historical change. And I think one of the reasons that the polls are showing disaffection about leadership is that people are looking in the old places and they don't see this new field that has come up, which so much of the leadership is coming from, not only here but around the world. And if we can together, the people in this room, help close that perception gap, more and more people will see the opportunity. The citizen sector is now growing jobs at 3 times the rate of the rest of the economy. We're multiplying the number of citizen groups. In this country, we went from 464,000 citizen groups recognized by the IRS in 1990 to 1.1 million at the beginning of this century. Brazil went from 5,000 to 1 million in 20 years. This is one of those very profound, rare historical changes in the structure of society. And what we do is try to help that process, to find the best ideas, people at the beginning point. 5 years after that, over half of them have already changed national policy. This is an incredible moment in history where a whole half of society's structure is changing from a pre-modern, non-entrepreneurial, non-competitive, backwards. It wasn't we wouldn't be sitting here, but we had miserable salaries, low esteem because our performance was terrible. In 20 years, that's changed. This is now the fastest growing sector. And it's a huge source of hope and opportunity. And you just think about everyone in this room, everyone in the country, everyone in the world. You just saw this opportunity. This is an opportunity. Well, why couldn't you do this? It's just as practical to start your own social change as it is to start a business. And it's just as needed. We need entrepreneurship and change and education, health, human rights, just as much as in hotels and steel. And that's the opportunity.
Can you give us a couple of concrete examples of what Ashoka has supported that's been making a difference?
Sure. A Bangladeshi that we started helped quite a few years ago, within 4 years had a 44% increase in school enrollments with the dropout rates cut in half, UN evaluation. In Brazil, another fellow cut the costs of rural electrification 70 to 90%. Well, think about the millions of lives that's changed. Then we weave those together, so the idea from Bangladesh moves to Brazil and now to this country. In this country, right here in Washington, J.B. Schramm, is an American Ashoka Fellow, is showing how at very low cost to help 150,000 young people in high schools who would do fine in college, but who don't have the parents or the counseling to get there. Well, think about what that means in 10 years. 1 million people's lives changed, their families, you start multiplying through. So what we're looking for is a big pattern change idea in the hands of a real entrepreneur, a social entrepreneur. And there's just nothing more powerful than that combination.
And what are the leadership qualities that are needed for a social entrepreneur?
Creativity, entrepreneurial skill, quality, which is a deep personal commitment that you are going to change the system. And it's not complicated. You don't have to be a genius. You just have to believe that you can do that. Give yourself permission. And then ethical fiber. Absolutely critical, and that's something that you can test for and manage for, that our society has stopped talking about. That's a terrible cost. And then finally is the idea, the first three are personal qualities, is the idea big enough, new enough, practical enough that it's going to spread? And then how many people will be affected, how importantly, how beneficially? So it's those four qualities.
Yeah. I learned from one of your Ashoka folks the other day that the Grameen Bank, the microfinancing project, that 40% now of the people in legislatures in Bangladesh are people who benefited from the microfinancing and put their lives together. These are basically women who got these micro grants, these microfinancing grants, and built their lives, and they're now in the legislature.
You know, this is a wonderful example of just how powerful a social entrepreneur is. One idea in the hands of an entrepreneur, it comes into the local community, it upsets the existing pattern. By definition, it upsets the idea you can't change things. And the entrepreneur only succeeds if their idea is so user-friendly that someone in that community is tempted to stand up and say, I'm going to take that idea and I'm going to bring this to this community. So it's very contagious. Every entrepreneur invites other people to be change makers, and then they become role models. And that's exactly what Grameen Bank did. It's in theory, of course it is a microcredit process, but it's deeply empowering. When women, the poorest women, are able to get capital so they can become independent, well, it's not just that they become financially independent, it's a much deeper change.
Mm-hmm.